I want you to meet Chuck Stedson. Chuck Stedson is a businessman from New York City. Some of you may think, well, I'm not a pastor, I'm not a preacher, I can't be involved, I can't give leadership. That didn't stop Chuck Stedson, and it doesn't need to stop you. You don't have to be a pastor to make a difference. Every one of you can make a difference, and that's what we're calling you to. Chuck, you've been involved in a lot of projects. The Bible Literacy Project made it a nationwide issue, and I have heard you give a clarion call on marriage about as strong as anybody I've ever known. Talk to us about marriage and what could potentially happen to this nation if we don't get it right. Talk to us, Chuck.
Jim, I'd like to make 2 points. One is why we all need to strengthen marriage in America and what we specifically can do. And I'm going to I want you to visualize 3 charts. The first chart is the marriage index. And it came out last October. And when it came out, it was designed like, we have the leading indicators. And it tells us something about the economy. The marriage index tells us something about the health of the country. And guess what? The numbers are going down like that. I'm a business guy. If I saw that in the sales of one of my companies, I'd be pretty concerned. If you saw that in the revenues of your church, you'd be pretty concerned. Why aren't we concerned? We should really be concerned. Let me tell you what's going to happen on this, and it's going to be very clear. If America goes the way of Italy, Italy has a 1.3 reproduction rate. Do you know that in the year 2040, 60% of the kids that will be born will not have a brother, will not have a sister, will not have a cousin, will not have an aunt, and will not have an uncle? This is the land that used to have huge families. They're not going to have them. And guess what's going to happen on this? With a 1.3 reproduction rate, that means you have half of the economic earning power in the next generation. We're also going to have twice the number of people over 65. Okay, who's going to pay the government debt? Who's going to pay the pensions? Who's going to pay the health care? And by the way, if I was a businessman selling furniture, who would buy my furniture? And guess what's going to happen? When I pose that question to some of the leading companies in the country here, the jaws drop. How often does that happen? The jaws drop because if I ask the question, what happens if you're, say, head of the strategy and your CEO comes in and say the business analyst figured this out, what's going to happen to our stock price? The stock price is going to take the same thing. It's going to go right down. So that's one chart I want you to visualize, but there are 2 other important charts. One chart, the second chart I'd like you to think about is the chart of boys growing up in intact families and boys growing up without their mother and father. The boys growing up without intact families are going to end up in jail twice as often as the kids that grow up in intact families. Let me pose the problem, because the state of California has already addressed this issue. They had 3-panel judge last August that came in and said, look, we're going to release 47,000 prisoners. Why? We've got overcrowding. Well, we know that 60% or 65% are going to go back and, because within 2 years because of recidivism. We cannot build jails fast enough. We've got to do something. We're going to bankrupt America. The other chart, the third chart I'd like you to think about is about girls. Girls need a father, because if they don't have a father, teenage pregnancy for girls with a father is 5%. It goes up to 35% without when the father goes away. The girls absolutely have to have a father. Let me conclude. What can we do about this? Sign the Manhattan Declaration. This is the line in the sand. We have to stand for it. We have to participate in National Marriage Week. It comes up the 7th through the 14th, just before Valentine's Day. It's going to be exciting this year. But go to your church and get them to do something about marriage courses. We need pre-marriage and we need marriage enrichment, because only 28% of the churches do it. In the black church, it's only 5%. This is outrageous. It should be 100%.
When I find people who don't morally get it on the issue of abortion, I appeal the way you just appealed. When you consider when abortion started, how many years have passed, the people who were originally killed now would have been having children that are up to age 15. So we have lost massive numbers of people. So I'm with unemployed people who believe in abortion. I said, one of the reasons you're unemployed is because there's no houses being bought, there's no cars being purchased, there's no schools being built for people who've been killed. You don't have a job today, in part because of the massive slaughter of humanity. People don't understand it's an economic issue. There's a reason why God said, be fruitful and multiply. He was serious about it. And then thank you for your jolting statistics about boys without a dad. In one particular state, in that particular prison where they did an analysis, 95% of the males in that prison did not have a dad that they knew. I'm sure Chuck Colson could give us much more up-to-date statistics than what I'm citing right here. I thank you for your passion and the way you won't give up on this. The prayandact.com really came about through the influence of this man, a businessman out of New York City. I started to give up on it several times, late January and February, and Chuck kept you can see the passion. And when he talks about prayandact.com, you go to prayandact.com and then go right on to the Manhattan Declaration. Folks, the Manhattan Declaration is, as he has said, the line in the sand. That's sanctity of life, sacredness of marriage, and the preservation of religious liberty. Chuck Colson, along with this gentleman here, gathered a group of people in New York City last September the 28th, almost a year ago. And a group of people came together, and out of that, a brilliant Catholic scholar from Princeton University named Robbie George, an evangelical scholar by the name of Timothy George, with Chuck Colson's input, co-authored one of the most spectacular documents, the Manhattan Declaration. Go to prayandact.com, and you can click right through and sign up, and then talk to your friends. And we're going to ask you to be fasting and praying over this duration. Fast however God directs you, but to pray and fast for America. Chuck Stedson, I thank God for you